Hello, I'm Richard Vobes, the bald explorer, out on another walk, and this time I'm in Graffham in West Sussex, near Petworth, between Petworth and Midhurst, and right there in the distance, I don't know how much you can see of that, but that big black ominous mound is Black Down. I've been up there with Ed Warren in the past, done a couple of walks there, worth checking out. However, stay with us for the moment because I'm doing a second walk today with Dave Ford, who's carrying by this beech tree. Hello, Dave.
Hello, Richard.
How are you?
Fine, yeah.
You've brought young Woody. Hello, Woody.
Say hello.
Gonna say hello? Ruff, ruff. Good to see you, Woody.
Yeah.
We're on another walk today. So you brought me to Graffham.
Yeah.
You were brought up in Graffham.
I was lucky enough between, I think it was 1970 and 1985 as a kid, brought up round here.
Wow.
So, and it hasn't changed too much since, which is nice to see.
Fantastic.
So,
Shall we stroll and talk?
Yeah.
So this bit behind us, we're just leaving really, is Lavington Stud, which is a very large, obviously a horse stud.
It was, yes. It was established in 1890. It's about 340 acres in total, something like 6 yards.
Huge, yeah.
But a lot of it's all breeding racehorses.
Gosh.
So yeah, it's a lovely area.
We've got this rather impressive gateway to go through. I'll let you do the honours. Thank you very much. And away we go. There we go. Make sure this gate is closed.
So the village of Graffham itself, it's a lovely, sweet, pretty village that nestles right at the foot of the South Downs.
Yes.
The village itself is not very big, but I think the 2011 census said something like 516 people lived here, about 229 houses, and the village itself really just follows the line of a single road that starts here at the top of the village, which is where the church is located, and then finishes at the bottom with the village hall. And there's some certainly lovely buildings that we will be able to see along the route.
Well, I have a connection with Graffham myself, but I'm going to leave that to the end. We're just looking here at St Giles Church, which is a beautiful church. The weird thing is that my connection with Graffham meant that I only really saw one specific area, one building in particular, and usually in afternoons and at night time. So I haven't been to any of this.
So this church, I mean, there's been a church here of some variety going back, well, there was a church mentioned in the Doomsday Book, and the sort of centre of the church is Norman still. The tower itself, the original tower was wooden and was taken down in the 13th century because it was too dangerous. The tower you see now was built in the 1850s, 1860s, and most of the walls were built in the 1870s. Just a little anecdote, when I was here in the 70s, it was actually used once as a filming location for, I don't know if you remember, there was a BBC TV drama series called The Brothers.
Oh, yes, my mum used to watch The Brothers.
Used to be on Sunday night. And anyway, there was one episode where they had a wedding, and the wedding was filmed at this church.
Good heavens, there you go.
Yeah,
oh, my mum would have liked that.
I don't know whether we can have a wander in. Or
poke in.
Yeah.
And in we go. So it's a little dark.
Yeah. I know, that's what I meant to say. It's got 4 bells.
4 bells.
Yeah.
And obviously you can, well, we can't, but it's possible to get up into the tower through that cage. And then here's the Sallies hanging down, which clearly the bell ringers come in and do their bit. Gosh. Right, well, there's a lot of village to see, so we won't hang around too much, but good to have a quick poke in there. Well, Dave, we've come down the hill a little bit from Graffham, and I noticed from the church rather, St Giles, and I noticed there's a public footpath that way up onto Graffham Down.
We're literally at the foot of the South Downs here.
Yeah. And because people may have heard of Berry Hill, that's only a little way that way.
Because I don't know if I've mentioned that the word Graffham, the ham bit comes from, it's an Anglo-Saxon name for village.
Yes.
The Graff, people aren't too sure, possibly Grove, so it might be Grove by the village.
Oh, right.
That's just, yeah.
Well, Grove suggests wood, and here is a timber, see what I've done there, timber framed, beautiful timber framed house. And this is, in my mind, your archetypal cottage. When somebody says, oh, do you know what I want? I want a lovely cottage with roses around the door. Well, this is exactly it, isn't it? It's a dream cottage.
It's lovely. It's called Ladywell Cottage. Nice little story with this. In the 1800s, there was a chap called James Bridges that lived here, and he was a bit of a non-conformist when it came to worshipping. Rather than just walk a few hundred yards up the road to the church, he preferred to worship on his own. So he built his own little chapel.
Oh wow!
Next to the cottage, which it looks as though the present owners have started to refurbish.
Goodness!
And this flint is typical of a lot of the buildings in this village. You know, it's a typical Sussex flint. That together with the timber beams that we saw on the cottage.
Yes.
But it really is quite pretty.
What a what a typical thing to do though. I think that's a typical Sussexy thing. Can't be asked to go up to the church. I'll build my own. Let's just have a sneaky look in. There's no door, so we can just go in, and you can get an idea of the windows and the sort of tiny amount of space. I guess that's the west end where the altar would have been.
Still make out the sort of.
And then behind me, oh yeah, yes, look at this. You can just about make out some words and the shape of something that would have been in there. Absolutely astonishing. It'd be interesting to know what it's going to be now.
It is a listed building.
So is it? It's listed, is it? Oh right.
Yeah.
There's a public footpath up there, Tadgett's Farm.
Yep.
And so we carry on now, a little bit further around this very picturesque and no doubt incredibly expensive to live village these days, which is of course happening to all villages everywhere.
It's very peaceful, very quiet, and it really hasn't changed that much over the last 30 or 40 years, which makes it even more attractive, I think. Now, there's a very interesting house we're going to pass on the right here. It's called Woodlands, and it was a pub until as recently as 1958. I think it closed.
Oh, it does look like a pub in a way, doesn't it?
And if you look up, just up here onto the right, you can see some old bottles that have been built into the roof of sort of one of the outbuildings as a reminder of what it used to be.
And what a lovely country pub that must have been in its day.
Yeah, I have seen some old photographs of it in its heyday.
And now approaching under the shade of a terrific horse chestnut.
There's a few squash ones on
Conkers all on the ground. So this, look at the girth of this amazing trunk here. Absolutely, there we are. To give you a bit of scale, we've got Woody and Dave. I'm just going to take a step back to try and get an element of scale as well with the actual size of it. Who knows, 300-400 years? I love it. And on the ground, it's just where we, in autumn, beginning of autumn, laden with conkers. I mean, absolutely heaving with them. Incredible, really. It says forge on the door, on the gate.
Yes, and indeed it is an old forge.
It
was originally two cottages.
Gosh, two
and
cottages
then combined into one. Again, lovely sort of flint walls. And then if we look around here, you can see where the buildings of that. That's where the original forge was, and the stables, and the workshop and what have you. It's now obviously been refurbished into residential use.
Yes.
When I lived in the village, I remember there was an old Scotsman here used to have gun dogs, and he used to keep them kennelled in that building.
Oh, right.
But again, it's a listed building.
I know round the corner there's a pub. We'll going to come up to
Yeah,
shortly.
just
That's
gonna-
an old pub, is it?
Yes, this is the Foresters. It's a 16th century pub. Originally it was called the Star and Garter, and then it changed its name in the 1800s. But I believe the landlord at the time was one of the chief, it was very big in the ancient order of Foresters.
Oh, right, yes.
And there was a little shop attached to it.
So, ladies and gentlemen, to the connection that I have with Graffham. For a while I lived in Petworth, which is only about 5 miles away, something like that, possibly less. And I was a member of the Graffham Youth Theatre, and we used to come here and put on plays. It is actually shut, but it is very strange. I wrote and directed a play, 2 plays which we put on here. One was about a bloke committing suicide. I was 18 at the time, you know, emotional times. And the other was about a woman who was having a marital affair. So, you know, as a young person, I was very much on topic for a young person. But there it is, the Empire Hall.
Built in 1907, as it says. It was built originally to house 400 people. And so it has the Graffham Rustics Amateur Dramatics. They've been putting on a play every year since 1951. And the clock there is the only public clock in the village.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Goodness. Dave, I've got to thank you once again for another walk.
Yeah.
Taking you back to your childhood and briefly to mine.
Yes.
So that's interesting. So, as the enormity of the traffic that passes through the village goes by, that's him off to lunch.
Yeah.
I think we'll nip back to the Foresters.
I think it'd be rude not to.
It would be rude not to. So join us again when might be a little bit worse for wear. Until that time, thanks Dave.
All right.
And Woody.
You gonna say goodbye?
Goodbye, Woody. There he is. We'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.